Let's do the handshake. Yeah? Sikh and Sunni coming together. we're gonna take over the world, man.
Sikh and Shia.
Sikh and Shia. Yeah. What do you mean by sinless?
Okay, so sinless in the terms of the Shia point of view. From the point they were born till the day they passed away, they committed no major sin, no minor sin.
But can they lie?
Can they lie?
Yeah.
They have the ability to, but they wouldn't.
So if they had the ability to, why wouldn't they? What would happen to me if I was to go into a room full of Muslims and say that Muhammad is this, and the very derogatory thing,
and
completely trash him as a person?
Yeah, you'll be taken to court and you'll be taken to court to trial.
And what would happen to me?
The final result, they'll have to ask you questions as to why you said that.
What is the ultimate punishment?
The punishment for derogatory terms.
Yeah.
I'm not learned on the topic. I'll be honest, I'm not learned on the topic.
Is it taqiyya?
No.
Yeah. So they would accept other faiths in a way. I don't think Sunni Islam, like they want to say.
I shall go that way. Look at the camera behind me.
Yeah. So I just think you're a bit more moderate. No division though, man. I'm not trying to cause division. But let's start getting everyone to Shiism.
Come to Shiism.
Shiism and Christianity. Now I'm too much Sikh. I'm through and through, man.
Well, I would say that you said it's that Salafism started more in the late 19th century.
Yeah.
So if you actually look at the history, Salafism started primarily with one of the major scholars, yes, and they refer to him as Ibn Taymiyyah.
Can you explain to me the fundamentals of Salafism?
Okay, so Salafi Islam.
Mainstream Sunni Islam.
Yeah, sure. So mainstream Salafism. The main difference between Salafism.
Let's do the handshake. Yeah? Sikh and Sunni coming together. we're gonna take over the world, man.
Sikh and Shia.
Sikh and Shia. Yeah.
So I would say you said you encountered it about 20 years ago, but I would say the main doctrine of Salafi Islam came from a scholar named Ibn Taymiyyah. Now he lived around 7 to 8 centuries after the Prophet passed away, I believe, and he came up with this doctrine that yes, we should follow one God, but in terms of what we call wasila, seeking a means to God through prophets and pious people is not allowed. The prophets are dead. Past that, don't look at them, call upon them, don't even associate yourself with them in that respect. And they said that this concept isn't allowed. Don't go visit their shrines, of which has been a practice of hundreds of years for the Muslims, especially for Shias, for the Sufis, for the Ashris.
Didn't they not bomb something to do with Prophet Muhammad in Mecca a while ago?
Bomb Prophet Muhammad.
I don't know what it was, ISIS or something like that.
Yeah, so they attacked some of the companion shrines in Syria, but I don't know if they attacked Prophet Muhammad's shrine. That's one place where they can't go. Even if they could destroy the shrine from a distance, or they could dissimulate the shrine.
So what is the difference between Shiism? I understand you have a grievance in terms. I think it's more political rather than religious.
Yeah.
And it's to do with Ali and the four caliphs. And you believe that Ali is. Am I right that you believe he was a true first caliph?
Yes.
And now Abu Bakr kind of usurped him. And
yes.
Aisha was in a way kind of instigated a lot of things that kind of like propagated a kind of dislike between the two groups.
Yeah.
And that's now gone over. And one of the things I realised that a lot of Sunni Muslims get angry about is that they say Shias are disrespecting the mother of the believers.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that's the friction. But when I look at the theology, there seems to be very little. Like when you look at Catholicism and Protestantism, there's a massive difference. Yeah. But when you look at Shiism, it's so minute, but the hostility is quite large. So why is that?
So when we argue the perspective of Shiism, we would say that the Prophet Muhammad didn't leave behind nobody in terms of his caliphate, successorship. Now we don't mean political rulership. That's a biased argument. It's not political rulership. He would succeed him in all affairs. Political, one of them, spiritual, leadership, and universal. So he would take over the religion of the Prophet. The Prophet said to Imam Ali, "You will fight to protect the interpretation of the Quran, as I fought for its revelation." So he was there simply to guide the people to mankind. And we believe that these two people were 12 in amount. 12 successors who would protect the message of the Quran. They cannot change the Sharia of Islam. The Sunnis came and they said no, the Prophet elected no one of this kind. He allowed the companions of his time to choose, and he didn't mention the
Can I say something? One of the reasons,
sure.
Sikhism believes in a lot of the faiths, and we also believe in Islam, and we do believe that Muslims should be good Muslims. So our gurus didn't propagate saying there's only one way to heaven. There's lots of different ways, but we feel that our way is the best way. Yeah, it's like we're the Ferrari of religions here, so we go there quicker.
Yeah, sure.
The thing is that with the Islam, one of the issues I have, because I want to have a conversation about what I agree with Islam,
sure,
because there's quite a lot. I'm very conservative in my views and the dress sense and stuff like that. And I agree with the stance about Christianity. And
I don't know too much about Sikhism. Could you give it to me in a nutshell?
It's going to be too difficult. I don't want to give it. I'm going to probably butcher it. So basically, I agree with a lot of Islam in terms of their stance on Jesus being a prophet and not a son of God.
Okay.
I believe that the Christian church, the Catholic church has been corrupted and the Bible has been corrupted. So very, very in line with your guys. What I have a kind of like an issue with, that I've had a problem, when I've seen the Quran and I read it, I agree with Muslims in the sense that things can be taken out of context.
Yes.
And if you just read a paragraph, it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And then you put the whole thing into thingy, it doesn't sound as bad. Now remember, Sikhs are not pacifists, so I think we're similar to Muslims, is that we believe that you've got to defend yourself. There's no point in getting slapped like 50 times and you just turn the other cheek. You've got to defend yourself. So that doesn't upset me too much. I personally, trigger warning to the Muslims, that is Sunni especially, I'm not trying to no division. My biggest problem is that I think the hadiths here have been corrupted. And a lot of the things I disagree with about Islam, I find out like there's no compulsion in religion. And I'm like, but you can get this death penalty for apostasy. But when I looked into it, the death penalty for apostasy is from the hadiths. And they're not from the Quran. And so I have a big problem with the offensive, the science of the hadiths. I was trying to say to Adnan that if Aisha is in a room by herself, and she's having a conversation with Muhammad, just for argument's sake, is in tune with God, and he gets a message. He could say something beautiful, but because Aisha's fallible, she's walked out. She may not like a certain person, and she may then either purposely mistranslate it or by accident. So when it goes to the third person, anything that's just one person in the room with Muhammad cannot be authentic. And I think a lot of problems that I see is stuff like that. The kind of like little things that have crept in that I don't think are in the Quran. That's why I can't sometimes like the Quranists when I see them, because they're just taking the Quran by itself. But I understand from even Shia's point, you'd need that kind of the interpretation. So give me a bit of an understanding about your understanding of the hadith, so how you feel they...
So as a Shia, like I said, we do believe in the Quran, and we do believe that there is a scope of interpretation on any verse. If you look at Surah 9 verse 6, kill the disbelievers wherever you find them. Look at the following verse, and it was referring to the people who were trying to kill the Prophet at the conquest of Mecca. So we always believe there's a scope of interpretation. However, we do have sciences in which we explain the ayats of the Quran. So we have Asbab al-Nuzul. Asbab al-Nuzul, cause of revelation. That when a verse came down, it had a cause of revelation. There was a reason why it came down. If we want to understand the true meaning of an ayat of the Quran, we need the cause of revelation. And likewise, we need to have historians who recorded accounts of the companions. And we have this science of narrating traditions which were authentic. Okay, this companion narrated this. Did he exist at that time? Is he trustworthy? So we do have that.
But do you have
I would argue as a
criteria
Shia,
as the Sunnis,
yes, so in terms of the Sunnis, we as a Shia came say, okay, the Prophet's given his message and it's beautiful, and he's given everything perfectly, but who's recording these hadiths? So we say that the person, they must have left a successor after the Prophet, who would, like the Prophet, was sinless, so that he could protect the message. How could the fallible men protect an infallible message? So we would say, like the Prophet, there's no more Prophet. The Imams of Ahlul Bayt, the Imams of the Shias, the 12 leaders, cannot change the Sharia.
So are they infallible?
Sorry, the Imams of the Shias, sinless. But what is your definition of infallibility?
What do you mean by sinless though? Because I mean, sinless is a very broad scope. So what do you mean by sinless?
Okay, so sinless in the terms of the Shia point of view, from the point they were born till the day they passed away, they committed no major sin, no minor sin.
But can they lie?
Can they lie?
Yeah.
They have the ability to, but they wouldn't.
So if they had the ability to, why wouldn't they? What's stopping them?
I'll give you the power of Imam Ali. Not Imam Ali, but one of their Imams. Somebody saying to him, you say you're infallible. Shia hadiths,
Is this one of the issues Sunni Muslims have with Shia?
Yes, they also don't accept the infallibility of Imams. But Asharis, the orthodox Sunnis, they accept infallibility of prophets. Yes, although their view is quite misconstrued, but you'll find a portion of orthodox Sunnis who also believe in infallibility of prophets, but they don't accept our concept of imamate.
Before we go on, I just want to clarify one thing with yourself.
Sure.
Do Shias, because I'm learning quite a lot today, do Shias believe in the Sharia in the same context as Sunnis do? So
in the Sharia?
The Sharia laws, do you have the same concept? So, death for adulterers by stoning, death for apostasy, women have to dress a particular way, which I think is pretty good myself. I do agree with the hijab is lovely and stuff. And basically, if you leave, so many other things like homosexuals. I don't agree with homosexuality.
What you call hood, punishment for crimes.
So the punishment of the crimes, like chopping on the head. Do you believe? Because I'll give you an example. I'm quite conservative. I don't believe in homosexuality, but I would defend someone's right to be homosexual. So can you see the difference?
So where would you get your definition of moralities from?
My morality is my own morality. I can't determine what somebody else does. I stopped drinking 6 years ago.
What would you define as a good action and a bad action? Because the words in themselves have an essence of morality to them. They're moral words.
All right.
So how would you define your morality?
All right, my morality, I do. If you're harming anybody, then
Harm principle.
Yeah, harm. And also, I also think I do believe that homosexuality is wrong.
Okay.
But I would say that they shouldn't be put to death or punished for it. There's a difference. So I think you know, I could frown upon it and say I don't like it. Like I saw 2 gay guys. Oh, that's a bit weird. But it doesn't mean I want to put them to death or I want them to be punished for it.
Yes.
God will punish them.
That's fine. In that respect, I do understand your point. But what you mentioned was quite interesting, and that was the harm principle, which came in psychology and is quite talked about. That if I'm not harming anybody, then why am I not able to do that? So we believe the only thing that transcends human subjectivity regarding moral values is God, and this is the only way. For example, there are several issues. We can agree rationally that alcohol is bad due to it puts you in a place.
And I can say that for experience. I stop drinking, my brain is expanding.
It puts you in a place where you can't control your inhibitions.
Yeah.
Stealing is bad. Yes, we can accuse that killing people each other bad. So these main issues we can accept they're morally bad.
Yeah.
However, there's certain things which may have a different scope of difficulty in determining whether they're good or bad.
But do
for
you
example,
believe that gays should be executed?
For example,
do you believe they should be in prison or executed?
So in regards, so for homosexuality, for in regards to homosexuality, that comes through hadith, the punishment for it.
Yeah.
We say established it's wrong, but the punishment comes for homosexuality.
But what's the punishment?
Yeah, I'll accept it. So we believe that penetration from one man to penetrate another. In regards to this action, yes, we believe it is death. It is death. It is death. That's established.
Let's just go to the bare basics. Do you believe that?
But allow me to let me just explain it.
It's a very simple.
I'll give you the answer straight. Yes, but let me explain.
So you said yes.
Yeah, it is yes. The punishment for penetration, yes, it is death.
Yeah.
Now. Yes, it is death.
See,
now let me explain with it.
You think you should
now,
kill homosexual?
Please let me explain, brother. So now in regards to why the punishment itself is embedded in the evidence required to prove the act itself. Now what do I mean by this? How do you prove penetration from one man to another? You must have 4 eyewitnesses which are just, which see penetration, which see it going in and out. I don't have to go into further detail. But that is what is required. So the punishment for it, it's nearly impossible to prove. So you have 2 aspects. One, it's so difficult to prove that nobody would actually be put to it. Yet the punishment is so severe that somebody would think it would refrain people from coming towards the action. That's the beauty of the action.
Can I say something?
For homosexuality?
Say again, sorry?
How many people are executed for homosexuality in, say, Saudi Arabia or Pakistan?
In regard to Saudi Arabia, they are not the message of Islam. But in terms of what they do, it is not representative of Islam. So now I cannot. Yes,
can I say
I cannot no, let me just explain that point, please, Robert.
Yeah.
So, Sharia, if you're establishing Sharia law in your country, you must abide by the laws.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, I've seen video evidence of CCTV of one man penetrating another. The law was embedded in the fact that there have to be 4 eyewitnesses. It could be nothing but that. I'm sure Saudi Arabia does not implement those actions.
So if you're raped by 2 men, you've got no chance of convicting them then?
Say again?
If you're raped by 2 men, you've got no chance of convicting them because you wouldn't have.
You can't apply the Islamic punishment. We're not saying you can't apply any punishment. We're saying you can't apply the Islamic punishment.
Because I've heard this.
That's the difference. You can still have a law if there's CCTV of 2 men killing another man. You can't apply the Islamic punishment.
Take the punishment of the law, because to have the death penalty, I'm totally against the death penalty. Like you probably are.
For any action.
For any
action, yeah.
Even murder.
Yeah, so you could have a better system of punishing people. Not even punishing them. You could have disproved of that.
Yeah.
But if they're not harming anybody, you know.
Can I ask you a question?
Can I just jump in for 1 second?
Sure,
because I've heard the argument about not being able to prove this particular act. Now, just for argument's sake, you could prove it, because you're saying you can't.
So the 4 men actually saw penetration.
So let's just say they did.
Yeah.
And in an ideal Islamic state, they would be then put to death.
Yes, if 4 men saw the penetration, they must have been doing it in public, correct?
It doesn't matter whether.
So they intended to do it.
The point is that the end result of that particular punishment of being gay is death. The criteria to get them to that stage is debatable, whether they can do that. But the end goal and the end consequences for gay people,
like I said, the punishment is embedded in its proof to require.
It's a very, 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 very kind of like.
How so?
For me, it's a silly kind of like way to explain it and trying to kind of rationalize it. The end of the day, you have a statute or a particular law that has death for homosexuals. So there's a death penalty for the homosexuals.
Yeah.
So for me personally, that in itself is completely barbaric, because I do not agree with homosexuality and I frown upon it to a certain degree. But I believe in everybody's rights to do what they want, and God will punish them after. When you're setting up a law or a particular system punishing somebody by death, and there's not even no kind of like in between, like you can kind of I don't know, give them kind of.
That's fine. I understand your argument.
But the crust of it is that you're kind of putting like little kind of decorations about something that's very barbaric.
That's fine.
And trying to sweeten it.
Let me just respond to his point. So in regards, just coming off that, this is why I asked in the beginning. I said the evidence required for it is embedded in the punishment itself. But yes, you're right, the end result is death. But I must ask you, you say certain things, you mentioned the harm principle, that as long as not harming anyone, it's not rationally wrong. And based off that, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go.
Where do you get your morality from? That's my first question. And I want to follow that up with an example of what you might consider a good or a bad.
All right, one of my moralities is I'm a staunch vegetarian, was a vegan.
No, as a Sikhism, yeah?
Yeah, from Sikhism.
Okay, from Sikhism.
You're supposed to be vegetarian.
Okay.
So from birth, I've never eaten meat. Now, I come to the conclusion when I was 18 that was in line with my principles.
Okay.
And so I became a vegan for a long time, and then I've stopped. So that's directly through my faith. Drinking as well. I used to drink for a bit, and I realised anyone drinks, stop it. You become a complete retard and do the most stupidest things. Since I've not stopped drinking 6 years ago, my mind has focused so much.
That's fine. You get your rationality from God. That's fine. I can accept that.
God, but I also get it from my own morality as well, from my family, what my mum says, when I meet people.
But they could be subjective.
But people in general, I'm going to say something quite controversial. I don't really like people in general. I'm being honest with you. Yeah, sorry. Everyone knows that. Yeah, I don't have any friends, and the reason I don't have any friends is because I don't really like people in general. I know it sounds quite harsh. I'm telling you the truth. The reason why is because most people are innately selfish, innately kind of egotistical. Even myself, I don't even like myself a lot of time, and so I try and keep away from people like myself. I
hope you like me, bro. But just following on from the harm principle.
I can like individuals, and I think most individuals have their own kind of moral compass. But people, around 8% of the population, I believe, are so easily corruptible that they need a structure to their life. I'm not one of those 80%.
Any pets?
I've got dogs, love dogs. Yeah, I spent a week with my dogs.
Can I just ask you a question based on your morality? You said it was the harms principle. Is that something coming from Sikhism?
I mean, whether it's coming from Sikhism, I can't say, but it's coming from my own morality.
I'll take it from your own morality. I won't debate on Sikhism. But if I just go to the...
Let me just clarify something on Sikhism. There's no kind of punishments in Sikhism for any particular action. So whether you're, from my understanding, sorry Sikh brothers, don't start bashing me online like you normally do, apostatizing me all the time. So they call me kuffar like I'm a thingy, like you guys get it all the time. I'm only doing my best. One Sikh in this place, I can't know everything. But from my understanding, Sikhism doesn't have a political side where you have punishments.
Imam Ali said the truth left me with no friends.
Yeah, and so punishment for us here is going to be by God.
Fair enough.
We can disagree with things, but we don't have political systems in place to punish people.
That's fine. So there is no punishment in regards to the scriptures of Sikhism. There's no punishment for certain actions.
From my understanding, well, I want some more Sikhs to come down here, please.
I don't know much about Sikhism, but I'm just asking you. There's no punishment embedded.
All you need to know is that we're good guys.
That's fine. I accept that. But there's no punishment for certain actions.
Me, so that just shows something. There's like 250 people.
Yeah, there's no morality. But
I won't go to Sikhism, but I'll go to your own morality.
Sikhism is really ingrained in my brain.
Yeah,
because the gurus have taught me particular things to defend people, and to be strong and to protect yourself. We're not pacifists.
Yes.
And that's come from the religion.
If I can just go,
the Sikhs are allowed to wear daggers in the UK.
Yeah.
Openly.
Yeah.
It's legal for us. So if I wanted to wear it right now, I could wear it open.
Yeah, we got Zulfikar cards too.
No, I'm talking about a real dagger.
Yeah, I know you.
A real
it's one of your 5Ks, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the 5Ks. So why did they let Sikhs do that?
I don't know.
Because Sikhs have never ever used a dagger in an aggressive manner.
I've seen YouTube videos.
No, that's India. That's India.
Oh, in India. Okay, in this country.
UK, so for the last how many years we've been
Sikh as well. You got a dagger.
This is a Shia thing. No, it's not. Don't make the comparison. There's no.
The thing is that so for Sikhs,
Shiism came first.
So for Sikhs, in a way, we're similar to Islam in the sense that we believe in defending ourselves. A lot of the Gurus used to train. If you look at the youngsters, we have martial arts, and all of our kind of. It's a bit similar to Shiism. We do have kind of like really horrific stories about people kind of dying for their faith and their beliefs, and it's very ingrained. And people said, "Oh, I'm like a Shia," because I keep been going on about the gurus being executed. But they did. Die.
I believe your 11 gurus were martyred, weren't they?
And most of them got executed. Well, some of them were executed. Some of them died for their faith. Kids were kind of put to their death for not converting. So we have something similar in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that morality has come from. So when people say to me, "Oh,"
would you say your morality is experiential?
You'll have to kind of explain exactly.
Would you believe your morality is based on your own, the way you live your life and the way you would experience certain things that come across your life?
Yeah. So look,
but then that would be subjective.
The reason why I'm called Tommy Robinson is because my particular views on Sunni Salafi Islam. So any Salafis there, you're my problem, no one else. It's the fact that I've been attacked by Hizb ut-Tahrir. Yeah, and a lot of things have happened to me over the years. So it's made my morality. I've become quite harsh in a particular way, which isn't good. And a lot of Sikhs criticise me, but my morality has changed slightly, and I've become a little bit immoral because I'm kind of like demonising people in a way, which I don't like doing. Which is why I come to Speaker's Corner to speak to the Salafis, even though I always berate them a lot. But, you know, I just want to see from their point of view why they think that way, and I can change my views though. And
so if I just go into the morality principle, I understood everything you said, I accept most of it as well. But just in terms of your morality principle, you said it's in self and experiential. So by that very definition, you would find it's subjective across different people. Different people experience different things. So in that case, there's no really objective moral values, are there? Basically my question is there an objective moral truth? We as Muslims believe that God revealed his objective moral truths.
The thing is,
he's the only thing that transcends human subjectivity.
I don't believe that if there was no religions, that the whole place will be kind of like everyone killing each other and everyone would be raping each other and stuff like that. I think there's a innate kind of moral code that most people have.
People who are not Muslims are moral as well.
I didn't say they're immoral. Like I said, there's killing, for example. Everyone, even non-Muslims, Christians, they accept that's an immoral thing to do. Stealing, raping,
but you
stealing.
It's okay to kill homosexuals.
Like I said, the law was embedded within the punishment. So we believe as Muslims, homosexuality in itself is a sin. However, my intention or my feelings are not sinful. It's when I act upon them. So like I said, that was through penetration of a man, penetrating another man, and there's 4 eyewitnesses. So yes, we believe objectively it's morally bad. It's a wrong thing.
But it's okay to kill homosexuals if you've got 4 eyewitnesses.
We believe homosexuality is a sin.
Well, let me ask you.
Can I just follow on from that? So as somebody who does not believe God transcends human subjectivity, can you prove to me, for example, something controversial? We can both prove stealing is wrong, killing is wrong. Is it being incestuous morally wrong?
Incestuous?
Yes.
I would find it quite icky if someone is incestuous.
But now you need to explain why to me.
Yeah, because
you need to explain
I'm a
why.
heterosexual person.
Okay.
I'm attracted to women. Yeah. I realise that.
But I want something which is objective, not subjective.
2% of the population may be homosexuals. Yeah.
Sure.
They may be attracted to the same sex as them. Okay. That's between them. You know what I mean? It's not on me to say to them, oh, I'm going to punish you for doing something that...
I'm saying it's immoral. Forget the punishment, but is it immoral?
Can I just interject for something, because this is quite important to me. I find marrying your cousin incestuous. So my morality, honestly,
so there you go, yeah.
For me, marrying your cousin, because my cousin sister is like my actual sister.
That's fine.
I can actually sleep in the same bed with her, and there's no feelings. Also, with the Sikhs, we don't not only not marry first cousin, second cousin, third cousin.
That's fine.
I personally think this could be quite controversial.
But it's
marrying
subjective.
your cousin is immoral, and I think it causes a lot of psychological problems and mental health problems and physical problems. And I think the reason God's put that in there is because He's trying to stop you from doing. But Muslims do it prevalently all over the place, and it causes so many kind of health issues. And God is telling you there's health issues with it. So why keep on doing it? So for me, when you're talking about incestuous, I think Muslims are incestuous with their cousins.
That's fine.
That's my morality.
I'll address that. I have an answer for it. But I'm just asking, can you prove to me right morally? And I'll come back to it. Don't worry. You can't answer a question with a question. Yeah. Is being incestuous morally wrong on an objective level?
Yeah, of course it is, including cousins.
Why?
Because marrying your cousin when you...
I'm talking about a brother, when I say incestuous, I'm referring to, we can come into cousins, that's fine. But in terms of a brother and sister and a mother and a father, and a father and a son, or a father or a daughter, or a mother and a son, and a mother and a daughter, is morally wrong?
Well, I could ask a question. You believe that the first 2 people were Adam and Eve, and 2 sons, yeah? How did they populate the rest of the world?
I'll address that, that's fine. I'm just asking you first, is it morally wrong?
Eve's sons must have had sex with her to produce more offspring.
It's fine.
Yeah, because it's only her, so that would have been wrong.
That's fine, but can you just address my first question? Is it morally wrong?
That's what I'm saying. If that's morally wrong, then Adam and Eve's relationship...
I'll address that. I'll answer it, but can you just answer my question first?
Is it no? I don't think it's actually more...
Say yes.
Yeah. Most people is wrong. My point is that most people would say yes, but they cannot prove it. They cannot prove it through their own moral values. It's subjective.
The family structure is important.
In the same way, killing someone is you don't need, a philosopher to tell you it's wrong. You know it's lewd. It just doesn't feel right.
You see, now you're talking about feelings, so it's subjective. My point is, one person being...
feelings as a human matter.
But even
so let me give you the...
Can I just interrupt for a minute?
Sure, go for it.
Even 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, when you see some of the literature and stuff, you will see, even in India and stuff, that marrying like brothers and sisters is completely frowned upon.
Yeah.
It's something that human beings innately know not to procreate with their own offspring or somebody that's genetically closer. So when I see my cousin, when I hear people marry, when I first heard about it when I was like 14, I was actually repulsed because my Muslim friend said to me, I might marry my cousin across the road. And I was so shocked because I'd never seen my cousin as anything else apart from my sister. In fact, I stay around their houses and stuff. We could even stay in the same room. So for me, that was incestuous.
Okay.
And I still feel it is. So that's just
my point is, the viewpoint I can get across is that you can very well agree with me on this point. That is not objective. There are no objective moral values according in the absence of God. Could you agree to that point? Because people have subjective values. You can disagree with homosexuality and you can agree with incestuality. Some people might agree with it, some people might disagree. But in the absence of God, you have no real objective moral values.
So why this country's a secular country? Why is brothers and sisters not all marrying each other?
Say again? Yeah, because they deem it morally wrong.
The people.
No, it's not innate. I'll tell you why it's not innate. I'll tell you why it's not innate. I'll tell you why it's not. I'll tell you why it's not innate.
That are genetically the same as us.
Yeah.
We want to procreate with people that can kind of expand our DNA and go into different areas, not with somebody that's exactly the same as you. We know that if you marry your brother and sister, the genetic problems are going to be so profound.
What if contraception is used?
You don't even need to know
so
that.
let me give you a specific example. Let me give you a specific example.
Even the most to have sex with your sister.
Even the most dumbest person.
Some people might. Some people might. Some people might.
But they're devious.
They're in the very minority.
It doesn't. Whether they're in the minority, we're establishing moral values. So, like I said, there may be 2% in South America. In South America, which do it. So, and homosexuality might be included. That, but that's no issue. My main point: in the absence of God, you cannot have objective moral values. Correct. For example,
I have moral values as well.
I'm not saying you don't have moral values. Objective moral values across all factors. I'm not saying that you are a moral person. You may be more moral than me. But in regards to, in the absence of God, you cannot have a moral, objective values. For example, and it's based. The harms principle is based essentially on the society which you're living. Because if you lived in the time of Hitler, you maybe become prominently that killing Jews was a normal thing. Or if you lived in the time of Saddam Hussein, killing Shias. If you lived in the time of the Mongol Empire.
I see what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that people in general don't have a set of rules that are consistent with every single person.
It's subjective.
So subjective to a certain degree. So the one person might think homosexuality is wrong, but another person might think it's right.
Yes.
But when you come to a religious structure, you then have a structure in place which has rigid rules about.
Not the structure of religion. We believe that God is the only thing that transcends human subjectivity.
I'm not Muslim.
So if that's fine. No, we're saying God. We're saying God. We're not. Sorry. No. We're saying God is the only thing that transcends human subjectivity. Because. If I could just mention off that.
Different gods. There's about 3,000 different gods in the world.
Yeah.
So when you say
now
God,
we come to the concept of revelation. But we're talking about the concept of revelation. But we believe that if there was any objective moral values, that the one who created us would know best which ones are right and which ones are wrong. So me as a Muslim, I would say that in my rational perspective on moral values are those which God says is right and those which God says is wrong. And I'm going to go into a sect which the Shia position of immoral, rational and irrational values.
Ask you two questions.
I just want to explain.
Everyone believes that their God agrees with them. So you believe that your God agrees with you. A Christian will believe that their God agrees
but God doesn't agree with them, we agree with God.
Even with you, whatever. You think that you're on the right side. God's speaking to you. You're the right religion. You're the chosen ones.
But now we've gone to the concept of revelation and which concept is. But can you accept? I have to ask. Do you believe in God? For example, this has to be my first presupposition. Yes. So if you said you or most of the experiences that your subjectivities are based on your most of your moral values are based on your own subjective experience. No, but that in itself is a contradiction because if God created you, wouldn't He tell you in His text which ones are right and which ones are wrong?
There are certain kind of like core moralities that you'll see with most people about, not sleeping with your own sister, not murdering people.
I agree, yeah.
If you took the law out of this world and you just have no law and left it lawless, there will be some crazy individuals that will speak certain things, but most people would try and protect or to try and, defend the area. Or
so as a Sikh, would you agree that God transcends, He's the one who tells you what's morally bad and good?
Yeah, I believe in God, so I have to say that. But,
so you agree with me?
My morality is different to yours.
How so?
So I don't believe in women being stoned to death for adultery.
Okay.
I believe adultery is going to be punished by God, not by man.
Okay.
So that's a completely different stance to take. Okay. I don't believe that you should have the death penalty for apostasy. If a Sikh wants to leave the religion, let them leave it.
That's fine.
It's their business, nothing to do with me.
So in regards, we're talking about punishments.
But the punishment is the main problem for me.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not a Sikh, but I agree with him.
I have to tackle one subject at a time because it's a different argument. Do you understand? Yeah. So if I'm talking about punishments, we believe that punishments were sent by God. Yes, they are severe in the sense that they will be killed, and it is a severe thing. But part of the punishment is embedded in the fact that you have to have proof. Say again?
Let me give you an example. I'm as a Sikh here. I say, all right, I'm going to turn Muslim, which I'm not ever. Unfortunately, you can't do it. It's not going to happen. If I did, for argument's sake, then next week I'm like Zakaria. I'm like, I don't like Islam anymore. I'm going to turn back to Sikhism. If I was in an Islamic state, which is run exactly by the criteria of the Sharia, what would my punishment be for deviating and then coming up to you and saying Islam is wrong? I experience it is terrible. Could I say that under an Islamic state, a caliphate,
so
without being punished?
In regards to the Shia position regarding apostasy, I'm not that learned on the topic, so I can't give you a definite ruling.
Are pretty straightforward.
However, in regards to what the scholar said and from what I researched, it's those people who apostatize from a religion and then attacked the religion.
And so, which is what I'd be doing.
I'd say attacked in the sense that you were fighting, not that you're saying bad words.
Oh, so I could still go over and say, look, the religion is
For example, we had people in the Prophet's time.
I tried to convert you and say, look, you should go back to my side. You should come.
That's not attacking. Attacking, we mean we actually taking up a sword and fighting against the Prophet in his time.
Treason.
Treason is when you go against the state of which you're living in. I'm saying yes, in one respect, essentially fighting against the state which you're living in. And even the law of treason in this country is.
But what do you define by fighting the state?
Say again?
What do you define by fighting the state?
Not proclaiming out. For example, there used to be the people who used to proclaim out in the Prophet's time. Yes, there used to be a woman who used to throw rubbish at the Prophet every day when he used to come out. The Prophet used to ignore her. And then one day she was sick. She didn't throw rubbish. The Prophet visited her and he said, today you didn't throw rubbish at me.
So under an Islamic state, could I criticize Muhammad outwardly and say whatever I wanted about him? What would happen?
Can you define what you mean? Say outwardly whatever
Let's just say the most repulsive thing I could think of.
No, you couldn't.
And I'm not going to say it.
You couldn't.
Because I still respect the Muslim faith.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to, would I be able to just say whatever I wanted against the Prophet? Just words.
No.
What would happen?
We don't believe you can say that about any. No, I'm not just saying this about Prophet Muhammad. We can't criticize Prophet Jesus like that. Even in our own scriptures, we can't. Even if we don't believe a religion.
You criticize the good.
Let me finish. We can't. We don't even believe. Well, can I just respond to that point?
Because you see them as a prophet, but you don't see mine as a prophet.
Sue.
You don't see the.
I'm addressing that. I'm addressing that.
How would you address us? Would you?
Anybody from who is not from the religion of Islam, the Quran says, do not speak out against them. Do not curse their idols. Do not even the people who used to worship in the Prophet's time, who used to worship idols. The Quran says, don't curse them, lest they curse you. So we're not allowed to curse anyone. We believe in the freedom of speech in Islam, but we do not believe in the freedom to insult.
I think the freedom of speech is your views of freedom of speech is very skewed by your Islamic faith.
How so?
And well, your idea of freedom of speech is completely different from mine. I think you could criticize my gurus. I would be upset, and I understand when Muslims get upset, because I get upset when someone says something about a guru or draws them, but they have a right to do it, and I have a right to walk away. Or protest.
It's an emotional thing.
But the thing is, with Muslims, they get so uptight about criticism about their prophet that they resort to violence, and this is my biggest problem. I understand why you.
But the thing is, what Muslims do and essentially what Islam says are two different things.
If I was to go into an Islamic state, which was Sharia compliant, and I said a really rude thing about Muhammad, which I'm not going to say. And then what would happen to me if I said it to a whole crowd of Muslims?
So we're talking about what Muslims in a particular country would do.
In a Sharia compliant state.
So we're talking about what the religion does.
In an ideal situation.
You know
the Muslims might kill him, but we're talking about what represents. For example, you mentioned Saudi Arabia.
No, I'm talking about an ideal Islamic state under Sharia penal laws.
Yes.
What would happen to me if I was to go into a room full of Muslims and say that Muhammad is this and the very derogatory thing.
Okay, derogatory
and
thing.
Completely trash him as a person.
You'll be taken to court and you'll be taken. You'll to court to trial.
And what would happen to me?
The final result. They'll have to ask you questions as to why you said that.
What is the ultimate punishment?
The punishment for derogatory terms.
I'm
not learned on the topic. I'll be honest, I'm not learned on the topic.
Is it Takia?
No.
You're Shia,
I know the Shias.
We're not talking about apostasy. We're talking about disrespecting the Prophet. Let me answer. You asked me a question. Let me finish. You asked me a question. Let me finish it. Let me ask him. Let me just finish it. Like you said, we're talking about disrespecting Islam. Yes. So if you want me to be like ISIS and give you my own subjective view, I can do that. But do you really want me to do that? Do you want me to preach? You want to know the truth, but do you want me to err and speak about a subject in which I am not 100% sure?
No, I don't expect
exactly. You don't want me to say that. But in terms of the ruling, if you disrespect the Prophet of your time, I gave you evidences. I gave you evidences where people.
Would I be prosecuted though?
Sorry?
Would I be prosecuted? Not the end result, but would I be taken to court?
You'll be taken to court, of course.
So that in itself is.
Anybody who speaks out any religion, you'll be taken to court and say, why did you say this? Because we see it as an act of treason. So you speak against any religion in that way. Islam doesn't say it's only Islam. If you speak out against any prophet or any derogatory sense.
That's not freedom of speech then.
No, we don't believe in it. You can't. It's the freedom of speech. It's not freedom to insult. That's where we differ.
This is where we have a problem in the UK because.
Now, for example, can I just follow on the point?
Let me just finish this one first.
Sure.
Because one of the biggest problems with the UK and a lot of people get agitated is because you have this kind of innate law in your head, which is that you can't blaspheme our prophet. But we are not Muslim and we're not in a Sharia country. So if I said it I shouldn't be like physically harmed or beaten up or whatever or intimidated. I have a right to say it.
Yeah.
If I was in a Sharia state, I could leave.
So
and then you could.
Can we just define exactly what you mean? Because there is one man who comes and is like, you know what? I don't really understand the Prophet marrying the XYZ person. I don't understand this law or punishment.
Don't believe in that.
Yeah, we don't. And I can prove that she was a 9, she was 18. If you want me to. Yes, we don't believe that a man comes and says, I don't believe in this law. I don't understand the rationality of this law. We have no absolute. The Quran says, "Afala taqilun." Do you not think? We want non-Muslims to come and question our laws. It's the process of deriving the truth in which you question your laws. However, if you come out like in certain people in France and like Charlie Hebdo and you insult our Prophet in the worst derogatory way, of course you're going to be taken to court in the Islamic Sharia system.
Don't justify Charlie Hebdo.
How so? I'm not justifying, I'm against him.
People got killed there, got slaughtered, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about what he done, not what people done in retaliation. I'm talking about what he done in his magazines.
Yeah, he just wrote, he drew some pictures
those people that done it.
He talked about Islam in a way that was ineffective, and yeah, I didn't say they deserve it. That wasn't my content. But my point is, if you're really going to ask about the rationality of a law, come question. We want you to question, but do not insult. Okay. This is our point.
Say that, for instance, the drawing of the Prophet Muhammad, yeah? You find that totally forbidden.
Yes.
I'm not a Muslim. Say I got a pen and just drew a picture of a face and said that's Muhammad.
Yeah.
You would find that very offensive, wouldn't you?
I would.
You would find that very offensive.
Yeah.
You may even want to get violent to me.
I wouldn't, but okay.
There's some people that would.
I would be very upset that you done it.
Yeah. That's why I wouldn't do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you said that tree is your God, and I got an axe and started chopping down that tree.
Like I said,
I don't understand how
it's
that
wrong.
would feel to you, so I wouldn't do it.
That's why Islam says we shouldn't criticize anything like this. That's why we say even for other religions other than Abrahamic religions, even other than the word of God, don't criticize the religion. But my point is that you shouldn't criticize anyone.
Something so much, that just drawing a picture would make you feel violent to that person that's done.
Now we're talking about what certain Muslims do. Please do not conflate what Islam says and what certain Muslims do. Yeah, I condemn the actions of what they done. Yes, it shouldn't have been done, of the people who killed Charlie Hebdo. But you must also come to my side and accept that Charlie Hebdo, what he done was wrong. It was very disrespectful. Look, and he could have done it in a much more effective way by asking questions.
Say this is my God,
yeah?
And you slapped it out of my hand and crushed it on the floor, I'm going to be very offended because I truly believe that this is my God. The emotions that I feel, if I actually believe that, I'd probably want to strangle you. You know what I mean? Then would you say like, oh, what you done was wrong, you should have respected my God? Even though you don't believe that it's my God?
I should have no right to slap it out of your hand.
But it's obviously not my God.
It doesn't matter. I have no right in Islamic system to slap it out of your hand. Look at the Prophet Muhammad and look at his biography. Did he after he conquered Mecca? For the first 13 days he did in Mecca. For the 10 lives he lived in Medina. After he conquered Mecca, he had full power. Did he ever punish people? Did he ever punish them? Did he ever punish them? Did he punish them? Did he punish people in the sense that he called them with mercy? So we believe if you're going to criticize it, it's fine, but you should do it in an effective way. But don't do it in a derogatory way.
If you say that Jesus Christ is not the Son of God, and all these Christians are crazy for believing in 3 in 1.
Okay, there's 2 ways I can say it. There's 2 ways I can say it. I can say I don't believe Jesus is the Son of God due to rational reasons. I don't believe God can have a son. We believe he's outside the dimension, space and time. Very good, effective argument. Now let's see the second man and what he says. You know what Jesus says? Jesus is the Son of God. This is all bullcrap. Where are you bringing me this stuff? How can he be this? X, Y, Z. It's not effective and it's not allowed. This is it. We believe you shouldn't disrespect anyone's religion.
You tell me in a
moving on from
aggressive way that it's not, then I'm being stupid.
But moving past that, even if you accept, even the law of the land accepts this, which is why treason in this country is punishable by.
There's no death penalty in this country.
Treason.
There's no death penalty in this country.
What is treason?
There's no death penalty in this country.
I never said there was death penalty. What is the reward? What is the punishment for treason? There is a punishment for treason, correct?
People have been punished for
I'm not sure. Is it death? Is it death? Isn't it death?
It's still on the statute.
There's no death penalty in this country.
Is it death?
Take it from a lawyer.
It's a lawyer. We have a lawyer, but it's death. It's there. It's death. We have a lawyer with us. Sorry?
It was the 1960s the last time someone was executed for murdering a police officer.
Listen.
Like I can say the same thing about Islam, but the point is we're talking about the concept. We're not talking about what happens in society. My point is that the law for treason is death. Yes, it is.
I disagree with the death penalty, and the death penalty has been abolished in this country since the 1960s. No one's been executed for
Yes, because it hasn't happened. But exactly, I can say the same thing about Islamic Caliphate. But what certain Muslim countries do are not representative of the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
It's
wasallam.
best to move on from the death penalty. Personally, I think it's not really a good punishment.
Yeah.
Because people get convicted wrongly, and you can't bring them back. You know, you can't bring someone back once you've killed him.
There's a guy just in America who was convicted of murder. 20 years later, he's been exonerated. Now he could have been executed under the Sharia court. At least now he has a chance to come back and like live the rest of his life. I mean, what would you do with those people? Because he wouldn't go to heaven, would he? Because he might not be Muslim.
And it was ordered.
That's one thing.
Yeah, but they had proof as well, though. They had concrete proof.
Me and you will probably agree on the death penalty.
It has to be the Islamic means of sustaining an argument.
Brought into this country, is it?
So again?
The death penalty.
Say again,
It's
sorry?
not something you'd like to see brought into this country. If
For-
you had any laws,
Like I said, and I think we're going a bit in a circle, but I said God is the only thing which transcends human subjectivity. Without God, you have no basis of your moral truths. You can't prove to me why incestuous is wrong. You can't prove to me why homosexuality is wrong. Yes, we can agree on certain aspects, stealing, killing, raping. We can accept on these things. But in certain aspects, you and I will disagree due to subjectivity of
you're
humans.
putting yourself in a bit of a superior position there, because you're
Also.
saying that without God, I can't prove that these things are wrong, and I have the basis for morality.
No, I didn't say you can't prove they're wrong, but I said at some point you will have a subjective view to another person who doesn't believe in God.
I do have a set of morals, yeah?
Yeah.
I do. I don't believe.
I'm not
in,
saying you're more immoral than the ones who believe in God. You could be more moral than me. But my point is, on an objective view, somebody who does not believe in God has no right,
There's
cannot.
certain reasons why I have my morals. My morals come from basic biology. There's things called mirror neurons.
Okay.
If someone wants to chop his arm off, yeah, you'd flinch because you could actually see it and then you'll feel it.
Okay.
Your brain produces a replicative kind of like neurons in your brain to know what that
I
feels
said that
like.
Islamic punishments are based on the evidence required to prove it.
so we
So
know
yes, it
what
might be
pain
severe,
feels like.
but whenever are you going to see four just witnesses
So what's the point of
penetrating
having
another
it?
man? Sorry?
What's the point of having it
Like
then?
I said, the beauty of it is that it's punishable so much, it's so severe that it would refrain people from doing it, yet at the same time it can never really
Well,
be
let me ask you
implemented.
another
Of course you
question.
do.
Let me ask you another
That's
question.
why. That's the beauty of it.
Say someone videoed it, yeah? And
Oh, yeah,
you
there'll
played
be a million
the
people.
video in front of 4
I'll
judges.
reply to that.
Oh, that's
I'll
good.
I'll reply to
see
that.
it.
Say again? No,
Say
I'll
they
reply to
videoed
that.
someone
So now we've gone into a
having sex.
scientific view which was not there at the time of the Prophet. If you have a CCTV footage, you cannot apply the Islamic punishment to that. You can have your own law. You cannot apply the punishment by death, which is the Islamic punishment. You have to have 4 eyewitnesses. It can only be for that punishment.
So no homosexuals been executed anywhere.
Like I said, now what Muslims do and what the Sharia of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, you cannot conflate the two, brother.
Well, let me ask you.
cannot.
Let me ask you this question.
I disagree.
Earlier
We
on,
have to agree to disagree.
earlier on, I saw 2 gay guys. I don't agree with homosexuality.
You can ask the question back.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, no, but can I just quickly?
No, you ask questions because they seem to be taking shots at us.
Hold on.
And you're
This is,
taking-
this is what I keep saying to you. But this is what I keep saying to you. But this is, like I said to you, brother. You believe in God, but can I ask one question to him, please? Can you explain to me why? Can I explain to me why incest is wrong in the absence of God?
Why incest is wrong?
Why is incest immorally wrong?
Because you've got family structures, yeah?
Okay, what if?
A
Okay, sorry, go for it.
mother and a son, they have a certain family dynamics, yeah? The mother teaches the son. There's no kind of like innate sexual feelings from the son to the mother.
No, somebody may come forth. Somebody in South America may come forth. Somebody in South America may come forth and say, I have a sexual desire towards my mother.
That's very rare.
It doesn't matter whether it's rare. It might exist.
We're talking about basis.
We're talking about a
Very,
basis.
very
We're not talking about how much it comes into likelihood. We're talking about the basis of which it exists.
minorities
If this condition exists, and I'm putting the example before and parable before you,
Why don't you
what
sleep
is
with your
immoral?
I have no desire to sleep with my mum. You?
So you have no desire. So what's wrong? No, but if you did, what's wrong with it?
I would say that it goes against my social structure, family dynamics.
Right, so that's
Genetics.
subjective.
That's subjective. It's subjective.
You're from subjectivity.
It's subjective.
From a child, yeah? There's no sexual desire between
Yeah, and your
them.
mother was probably
Like,
Christian.
But the thing is, you're giving your own.
Yeah,
You're giving
exactly.
your own narrative.
No.
You're giving your own narrative. We're asking you if somebody felt the desires
Objectively.
in South America, not just you. You're
What's
basing
wrong
your
with
prove to me morally, objectively, why it's wrong.
For me, I feel like I told
Not
you.
for you, on an objective
not
level.
objective.
Objective
There's a
level.
family dynamics that has developed over millions.
They will
of
be
years.
a lot more closer
Which
if they
is
had
worse.
intercourse.
And it can change.
They would have a lot better family dynamics in
What's
that
the
regard.
consequences
That
of sleeping
change.
with your mother?
That
yeah?
Say again?
What's the
No,
consequences
no,
of
no,
sleeping
no,
with your mother?
No,
I want him to answer the question. I want him to answer the question. I want him to answer the question.
Consequences of having a
Answer
baby.
the question.
Why are you obsessed with people sleeping with their mother?
My point to prove to you, my point to prove to you that as I believe in God and you are asking me about punishments, I'm telling you the reason why I believe in punishments is because I believe there's an objective moral value sent by God who created us. I'm asking you as someone who doesn't believe in God, that's fine. But where do you get your objective moral values from? Are you using the harm principles? Are you saying that anything that doesn't harm another person, that can be seen? That's fine, we can go on from there. Are you saying the condition of the society of the time?
Yeah.
Give me an answer.
Because that doesn't harm the social structure of society. Yeah, not just harming a person, but the social structure.
So is that the argument you're using? Is that your argument you're using? So if I was living 1,000 years, if I was living, sorry, go for it.
There's family dynamics that has developed over centuries, yeah, over not centuries, thousands of years, millions of years, which has benefited society.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Now, if you got someone who's outside of that family dynamics, yeah, they'll be pushed outside of that community, outside of that kind of group.
Well, the thing is, we believe
because what they're doing is damaging the family dynamics.
How so? You say damaging, but how is it damaging it?
How is it damaging? Well, you see, it works better for a family if you've got a mother teaching a son.
So what if it was one time and they never done it again?
The dynamic.
So what if it was one time and they never done it again?
I don't know. If you deal with that when it comes, if you come across a problem, you deal with it.
I'm giving you an example. If it happened one time and they went on the rest of their lives, is it okay? Is it acceptable?
I wouldn't say I would disapprove of it, yeah? But I wouldn't say if you caught them that we have to kill them.
No, I didn't say I'm not talking about that. We're not talking about punishments. We are talking about whether it's objectively wrong.
Well, I agree with you. It's wrong to
Why? Somebody could come from another person could argue it's not wrong.
I told you the reason why several times.
Another person.
Just admit you have no basis to have any
morality. I've told you about 3 times now, and you're saying I have no basis.
Yeah, and those things are those things intellectually can be torn apart.
Your basis doesn't come from a
Say again?
No, your basis is intellectually weak.
No, I'm saying there are objective moral values.
Listen, forget one.
I can't hear you, Papa.
I'm because your man's. Okay, fine.
Because the majority of the population see it as wrong, innately decision as see it as wrong.
Stand up.
Say again?
I tell you,
I didn't say that. That's not my argument.
Why?
No, sir, I think we should cut it off, man. I think it's done. Brother, but I think I made my point.
I don't think you can understand it.
No.
You know about what's strong if a son sleep with his mom.
Sorry, say again?
A son sleep with his mom.
Incest, yeah, son with mom and daughter.
So, but what is that? You know, there's a sickness because Down syndrome. Yeah.
Second.
Down syndrome.
Yes.
Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Sorry. What's the cause of it?
Okay. What if contraception is used?
With concept.
Contraception. So condoms.
No condom. But normally, you know, in the moral value,
you're talking about somebody who may become of offspring. I'm saying, what if contraception is used?
Whether contraception or what, you know?
Is it wrong?
It's wrong.
It's wrong. So why is it wrong? So why is it wrong?
No, it's wrong because you're Muslim, right?
Yes, I'm Muslim.
You believe in Quran, right?
Yes.
You know, does Quran say a son?
Don't come to Islam. I want to come to your basis moral value. I've had enough questions about Islam. I want to ask you now. I've answered them. I want to ask you.
Moral value, is wrong. You know, and
why?
Can we all agree? We all agree it's wrong.
No, wait, let me agree it's wrong. I like what you said. You know, the sickness because Down syndrome. Down syndrome. The science proves it. Down syndrome is wrong.
Even though you don't believe in God, you can agree with me that stealing is wrong. But you can agree with that killing is wrong. But at some point, if you don't have God and you don't have an objective moral truth, you and I will disagree and it will become subjective. Like Hitler, he was carrying out what he thought was right at the time.
Okay, so yes, it's a debate between me and you. It's not religion dictating, right?
I say that it was God dictating what's objectively morally true.
Okay, but even today, unless you're assuming we are all religious.
No. I'm not saying we're all. I'm not saying. I said that you could still have moral values. But my point that you would have subjectivity.
I hear. Without religion, in parts of the world today, right? Like let's say in some remote places, people are not sleeping with their mother.
Yeah.
So therefore,
I said you could have moral truths.
So therefore, while we can't prove it, there could be something innate, within us that is dictating our values. Yes. And by the way, food, fairness. Let's say how we share food, how we source food. In the days of the cavemen, they were actually very fair in terms of how they distributed food, how they distributed food more than today. The inequality of today's generation is the worst in history, right? So therefore, if moral is not just limited to your mother's, sleeping with your mother, but is also, relating to how we share food, How is that back then, before Islam, before all these religions, they had such a moral values that objective and subjective?
You're conflating.
I never said, like I said,
you're conflating.
Across society you had different norms and people had different objective moral values. Some of them were right, some were wrong. Look at Hitler, look at Saddam Hussein, look at the oppressors of the times. Depending on the society which you live in, your moral values are based on those.
What I do have a problem with is you're saying without religion, we are not capable, without God, we are incapable of having a moral compass, right?
No, I said on every single level, you have objective moral truths.
Transcendent objective reference,
yes.
Everything becomes subjective. So therefore murder is what? Murder, I like murder, I'll do it. What's wrong with it? What's about morality?
But hang on a minute, much of human society is...
I actually can't see him, I'll burn my
minority. I think we debate or not, but can I say, are you an atheist?
It doesn't matter.
No, I want to go into that topic.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
Okay, when you say mate,
that's what they do.
Okay,
that's what they do. Thank you. That's what they do. Yeah? You're atheist.
Where are you from?
Pakistan. Born and bred here.
Atheist.
I'm an atheist.
Everyone knows you're an atheist. Everyone knows you're an atheist. Yeah.
Because one of the things you forget to say is that we could actually say that believing in God is subjective.
Yeah, it is.
Because you believe, I believe in something.
That comes down to revelation. Black Dunya all day. Subscribe to his channel.